Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237. Coming at you with the first review of 2020, or for a 2020 film. Because today, Friday, March 13th at 12 p.m., I saw Invisible Man. Now, if you remember back in, I think it was November or December, I don't quite remember, I did a trailer reaction for this Invisible Man Dark Universe reboot. And I ranted on it. I said it doesn't look good. I actually said it looks terrible. It looks like a Lifetime movie. Doesn't look like it has anything to do at all, even in spirit, with Universal classic monsters. And I was just, even the fact that it was directed and written by Leigh Whannell couldn't make me any optimistic. But then it came out, and I heard some stuff. I saw it had like a 91% of Rotten Tomatoes. I watched midnight screenings with Brad Jones and Doug Walker. They praised the film. And I started thinking, maybe it's gonna do all right. Maybe it will be okay, but I was still thinking Wolfman, The Mummy, from like 2010 and 17. I even wore my Bride of Frankenstein shirt to represent my favorite era of horror that can never be redone, and that they should just stop. When I got to the theater, because again, this is like the third week, I think, that it's been playing. Again, it's 12 o'clock on a Friday. Maybe it's coronavirus panic. I don't fucking know. But when I got there, I went alone, which I really enjoy doing. But when I got there, I was the only person in the theater for the entire film. That's never happened before. Easily the best theater experience of my life. I just sat in the back and I just looked at the sea of nothingness. No people. I don't think I've ever been that happy. The film itself, I loved it. I really did. Thinking back to my trailer reaction, this is what makes going to the movies great. You see a trailer. One, it was a trailer that didn't show much. You know, it was along the lines of like Joker, Dr. Sleep, Candyman. Didn't show much. But I didn't like what I saw. And remake of a Universal monster film, already hated the idea of it. But I was in the theater and I was just blown away by this movie. I was very impressed by everything. The direction by Whannell, because this is his third directorial effort. He directed Insidious 3. He did a film called Upgrade, which I haven't seen. I've heard good things about it. He also wrote it. Another thing that made me be like, ugh, why? Is because it had the Blumhouse stamp of death. Because I am fucking tired of Blumhouse. Just wanna grab something real quick. There. The performances were all great. The story, it is nothing like the original Universal film. It is completely its own thing. It's like if you take Candyman and Sleeping with the Enemy, put them together. It's sort of in like a Lifetime movie, but not a Lifetime movie, like an actual good movie. And this movie is just packed from start to finish with intensity, tension, dread, suspense. There's a couple jump scares, but they are earned. They're not cheap, loud, boo jump scares. They are earned. And it's 124 minutes. I don't think there were any trailers. Started right at 12. As soon as the credits started rolling, I checked my phone and it was 2:01. So without end credits, it's pretty much 2 hours on the dot. It never dragged. It was never boring. It was made on a $7 million budget, and it's grossed 106.8. So it's a fucking hit. And it's kind of bittersweet because if this movie succeeded, they can continue with their dark universe, which I don't want them to do, because this is next, which I don't want to see happen. But apparently they do want to do the Invisible Woman with Elizabeth Banks starring and directing. Whatever. But okay, almost 7 minutes in, get to the film. Anything you might know about H.G. Wells's book or the original 1933 James Wells film starring Claude Rains? Just totally forget about it. Because this is 100% its own story, which I'm glad they did. It's not a megalomaniac scientist who's made himself invisible and tries to take over the earth. It's not that kind of story. What it is, and you get this from the trailer, it's a woman who's in this very abusive relationship, marriage. She gets away, he dies, but he's invisible. And he is just fucking with her life in every way possible. And pretty much making the whole world look at her like she's crazy. And, the tagline, what you can't see can hurt you. This is going to have heavy spoilers and I don't want to spoil this. I want people, if you haven't seen it, go see it. I take back every bad thing I've said about this from like the trailer and anything else. It's only March, and I had the feeling this could very well be the best horror movie of 2020. Mainly because I'm not excited for any, except for Candyman and Spiral. But other than that, not really. Even from the I love the way it opens, which they have a really big house, cliffside by the sea. Get these big waves crashing on the rocks, but when the waves come down, it looks like the water is on like the invisible letters. I thought that was a nice touch. And just right from the beginning, it starts with her sneaking out of bed, getting her bag ready, making sure the alarm is off. Everything is set for her to break free. It doesn't establish their relationship because we don't need to know it. We get it through dialogue. Before I go any further, I just want to say again, spoilers. So if you're interested in this movie at all, please discontinue watching and go see it and come back. But I highly recommend it. It does have like this sort of supernatural Blumhouse kind of vibe, but imagine if it was a good like a great movie. Yeah, again, Leigh Whannell. All the stuff he's done with James Wan, Saw, Dead Silence, Insidious, I believe The Conjuring. He wrote Saw 2 and 3. I believe he wrote Insidious 2. He directed 3. You know, he knows how to make a horror movie. That's why he can take a Blumhouse thing and make it good. Or even a Lifetime kind of stalker thriller and make it good. So, spoilers. Of course, you know, something happens, a car alarm goes off, she has to run, and her sister picks her up down the road, and so it already starts off intense. The score is also great. The score just has this sound that is like this, and as soon as she gets in the car, she's like, go, 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 drive, drive. And of course, I don't want to sound sexist, but she just sits there. I'm not going to come out and say it. She's like, why? What's wrong? You okay? What's going on? Are you all right? And we just see him just run up to the car like, get the fuck out of the car. Get the fuck out of the car. Open the fucking door. Get the fuck out of the... You punch in the window. She gets away to her friend's house, who's a cop. He has a teenage daughter. She's been staying there for 2 weeks, and then she gets the news that he's dead. He committed suicide. And she's been left with a bunch of money, like his entire estate. Which it's kind of establishes that he's some sort of scientist of some kind. And he leaves her $5 million. What exactly? She did say it once, some sort of physics. I don't know. Anyway. Her brother-in-law is the lawyer of the estate. Her name is Cecilia, played by Elizabeth Moss, who, the name sounds familiar. I can't think of anything on top of my head that I've seen her in. She was fantastic. Because this isn't just a verbal performance. I mean, she has to do a lot with her body language, her facial expressions, even just how she looks. I mean, she has to have these... We have to believe that she is traumatized by this abusive relationship. Through exposition, we get how, you know, I was told, I was controlled in and out. Every move, what to eat, what to say, what to do, what to think. He would get inside my head. He would know what I was thinking. He would control what I would think. And, you know, she's just this weathered, beaten down woman that, you know, when she has these little tics or twitches, or she looks like she hasn't slept, bags under her eyes, it looks authentic. And she does a wonderful job at conveying that. And this movie does a wonderful job at building. It's like The Shining, like many other slower paced films. Even though this is a slow paced, the tension really keeps it moving. But, you know, all the instances of someone stalking and fucking with her starts off as small as possible and just builds to one hell of a climax. Like, starts with her cooking breakfast. She turns away to get something, and the knob just gets cranked and starts a grease fire. Doesn't destroy the kitchen, but... And then, you know, she thinks she shares a bed with her friend's teenage daughter, who she even donates $10,000 a month of her inheritance to send her to the college she wants to go to. And her friend's a cop. She gets out of bed and just Whannell really knows how to trick your brain into thinking you're gonna see something, like, because she'll be doing something like at the counter or in the bathroom, and the camera will just pan away to like a chair or a corner, and it will make you swear that even though you can't see him, that he's there. And one thing I will say is this movie did not go for the obvious, like, Hollow Man kind of special effects where it's like the watery, kind of wavy transparency. Like, it's just nothing there. But, you know, she gets out of bed. She thinks someone's sitting in this chair because she doesn't believe her husband's dead. She believes he's still, you know, because he is so smart, he is so narcissistic, psychopathic, and incredibly cunning, that he could still be doing something, like fake his death. She throws the blanket on the chair, and of course it goes down. She's dragging it back to bed, and it gets stuck. And I mean, you can kind of see like imprints, like someone's standing on it. So she's tugging on it. Of course, she gets off, she falls. It starts off with stuff like that. And then, like, her sister gets this horrific email about, you know, you're dead to me, you're suffocating me, you're only helping me for the inheritance, I wish you had died instead of him. Which is something that hadn't really been done before. We haven't really had the stalker or invisible stalker kind of thriller film for the email age. I mean, keeping invisible, Hollow Man came out in what, 1999? No one, like, not everyone had email back then. This was something we never think about. It's like, okay, he's gonna harm someone, he's gonna set traps or whatever. But here he's like getting into her personal life through her laptop. So like her sister's cut her off. She's sitting there with her friend's daughter, and he just fucking slaps her. And of course she thinks it's her, so now she's kicked out. And, you know, the film just keeps building and building, and by now she knows it's him. You even get this great scene where she just calls his cell phone, and she hears the and the camera does this great thing where the camera's like above looking down at her, and as she looks up, the camera just looks straight up at the ceiling. She goes up in the attic, and, you know, she finds his phone, she grabs this can of paint, throws it down the ladder, and of course we get a white shape of a person. And that's like the first thing we see. All the scenes in which someone is fighting Adrian, the Invisible Man, look great. You can tell it has to be timed, great choreography. He must be a skilled fighter because every, you know, kind of kick and drag and pull and throw, you know, into, onto, or across something, they utilize. It's got high action in those scenes, and they have to act to nothing. So very well done. Great music to go along with it. Great camera work. Performances are well done as well. Eventually, when she gets away, she goes back to the house, goes down to his lab, which we kind of saw in the beginning, finds this sort of area where she hadn't been in before. She goes in, she hits a button, and the invisibility gets undone on this suit. It's kind of like a black gimp suit, but imagine like a bunch of like holes all over it that have little tiny cameras that somehow create invisibility. So then when the Candyman element comes in is when she meets with her sister again and tells her, wants to tell, I found a suit. It's going to prove everything. They're at this fancy restaurant, and just as she starts telling her about the suit, we just see the knife floating. The sister looks at it, slits her throat. Knife immediately goes into her hand. Everyone sees it. Of course, she's in shock. And then she gets sent to like a mental hospital to be evaluated, in which she keeps saying, he's there, he did this, he killed her. And he even fucks with her from within there. And you get this great, it just keeps building. And also, like, he wasn't just sending emails. Like, he didn't just send that email just to drive a wedge between her and her sister. When she's questioned about the murder, they're like, you sent an email about how you wish she was dead. And I mean, he's such like a cunning Machiavellian, everything is just like a bomb that's planted that he can detonate later. Very well written. And as the film goes on, she just gets more weathered and beaten down and twitchy and crazy, and you buy her performance. And eventually she finds a way to fight back, and security guards get involved. And I mean, he kills a bunch of security guards, because every time a security guard has to come up, he has to kill them, but they'll see a gun floating or something. Huge, climax. And then he threatens to go after the only person that's left, which would be the friend's daughter. And, just, I don't want to go through every single step. It's just, I'm just so blown away by this film. And it had several endings. Like, I thought it was going to end at this one point, and because it had like a twist. Then it went a little further, and I was like, okay, they're going to end it there. It's going to be with a sequel. It's going to be a sequel bait ending, but it just kept going. And I was just like, that's what a movie should do, is get you to think something and then just totally not go that direction, but still make sense and still be well done. Another thing I noticed is in the beginning of the film, when we do see him, like when he's punching the window, we don't really get to see his face. We don't really get to see what he looks like. So when the Invisible Man stuff starts, we don't really get to put a face or a figure over in that void where he's supposed to be. So it's kind of given like this monstery, kind of a boogeyman quality to him. Like, we can put our own intimidating, scary person that we would be afraid of, into that void. Yeah, I thought that was very effective. Of course, the film tries to make it look like it was the brother, which, just shows how much more smarter he is. And then, of course, she ultimately wins at the end. She uses the suit to make it to look like a very well-staged suicide, even with his home security system. And I just... This is one of the best remakes I've ever seen. My top 3 remakes have always been Evil Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Hills Have Eyes. But this is just... This is so well made across the board. Writing, performances, music, tension, scares. Yeah. Build up and the cinematography. It's a great looking film. Camera work. Yeah, it really was just like Candyman meets like Sleeping with the Enemy, which, you know, I'll always be a fan of the H.G. Wells. I mean, this isn't the film, this is the book, but I do like the book as well. I'll always be a fan of the Claude Rains film. But this was a route that made perfect sense to go with. You know, again, we haven't had a real slashery, stalker kind of film in a long time. At least a good one. This one knocked it out of the fucking park. This one deserves the $100+ million box office. If this is the best one to come out of the Dark Universe remake, I'm fine with that. Other stars, Aldous Hodge, Storm Reed, Harriet Dyer, Michael Dorman, and Oliver Jackson Cohen. They all did a great job. Originally, Johnny Depp was supposed to star. I'm not sure what the story was going to be, because that was before Whannell was attached. I do know in 2017 there was another film, I think it was a foreign film actually, where they even had the bandages, the glasses, and the fedora. It looked really silly and just really stupid. I'm glad they didn't do that with this. They really just took the idea of just a narcissistic megalomaniac and made him invisible. No, okay, what kind of horror movie can we do with that? This. Even the part when she says the abuse wasn't just like that. It was also sexual because he wanted a baby. She was taking birth control behind his back, but of course, in secret, he found out about it, replaced it with like a placebo, and she was pregnant. So she's even given the out of, you know, with one phone call, we can make all these charges drop. You know, when everything's at its worst, you just got to go back to him and agree to have the baby. You know, he's always a step ahead of her. And, like, she knows what he's going to do, but she can't see him and she can't prove it because the world thinks he's dead. And just the tension, like, the couple jump scares are so earned. I can't express how much it is like, if you take Blumhouse and Lifetime, take the crap they normally make and do a great version of it, done by Leigh Whannell, written and directed, and like if you fused Candyman and Sleeping with the Enemy. I did a rant for the trailer reaction. I was blown away by this film. I loved it. Highly, well, if you stayed this long, you've probably seen it because I said spoilers, but this was just a magnificent film. I'll say magnificent. The whole time I was just, I didn't want to get up to go to the bathroom. I was at it was like a theater that also sells like food. The server didn't even come in because I think I was the only person. I'm glad he didn't, because I didn't want to take any second away from this film. I was so entranced. So glad I was the only person in there. Just probably the best theater experience I've ever had. One of the best films I've seen in theaters, and I was 100% alone. I I went from knowing I was going to hate it to it might be good, but I still doubt it, to being blown away and impressed across the board. Half hour in, but yeah, The Invisible Man remake, wow. I was blown away. I'm sure there's a lot of aspects I missed. I will definitely be getting this on DVD when it comes out, and I'll do a re-review, which I meant to do with Joker. I might do with Doctor Sleep, but definitely going to do it with this because it deserves it. But anyway, that is the remake of The Invisible Man. Thank you for watching.